Hi everyone, and welcome to topic 3C part 4, where we continue talking about the psychological contract. In this session we're going to have a look at Maguire's diagram of the psychological contract, where we start with our own goals, our transactional and our recreational goals, which will both be a little different. They tend to feed into each other though, so read Maguire so you understand how that works. Our psychological contract is a thinking function in general. We process, we integrate, we interpret, and we derive meaning from what happens around us. And our goals feed into that and need to match that, otherwise we're unhappy. We have some strategies to manage our contract. We can decide whether we're going to be transactional or whether we're going to be relational. We can be specific about what we think, or we can be vague. We can have a short-term view and a long-term view, which may or may not match. And we can have an individualised or a standardised view to that. And often organisations take a standardised view and we want an individualised view. We also need to be quite good about making what is vague specific. If we take that view of our own individual contract and talk about that with our employers, we're likely to be far happier in our work because we have deeper understanding. As well with understanding that the goals of organisational agents and our co-workers need to match with our own, otherwise we've got unreasonable expectations. So we need to ascertain what others around us feel, and that requires information seeking, so our methods of inquiry, of monitoring what goes on around us, and of being able to negotiate. Some people are very good at negotiating, other people are very reticent in negotiating. So that actually feeds into our thinking function as well. As well, we have an implied contract, which is our psychological contract, and we have a formal contract, which also feeds in to our psychological contract, understanding what goes on around us. In addition to our psychological contract that we currently have, we also have an old and a new view of psychological contracts. The old psychological contract where the organisation was the parent and we were the child, where employees were defined by the organisation and not expected to move on. Employees who stay good and to the organisation, who actually stay as employees, are loyal. People who move are disloyal. Employees who do as they're instructed will have continuous work until they retire, and that the primary growth within the organisation is by promotion, and that's often due to age. Whereas the new psychological contract is where both parties are adults and able to negotiate, and we want mutually beneficial work and meeting mutually achievable goals, where the employee's identity and their worth is actually defined by the employee, not by the employer. That there should be a regular flow or a tide of people in and out of the organisation to keep the organisational healthy. And that long-term employment is actually unlikely, that people will come and go, and what's more, they may come and go from this particular organisation at different levels at different times, and that the primary growth is actually through personal accomplishment within the organisation. Also thinking about volunteering, this idea of governments and not-for-profits trying to create new institutional structures to encourage volunteering to make it more appealing. Have a think about how that fits with sport and recreation. Also, is it actually service to the nation, or is this actually about self-interest? So have a think about what motivates people to volunteer in 2013, not 2009. And think about what your personal motivation is to volunteer as well. Have a look at the case study, the professional sports worker, discuss that with people and actually have a think through these particular questions.